Hey guys, we are back again. And this week we decided instead of having a big one topic kind of thing, we're going to talk about some different hobby news and talk about our take on it and kind of expand from there. So we're just kind of winging it this week. So we hope you enjoy it. So this week we had a few things that took place, a big show, PSA making a big mistake,
Hmm.
and content itself seems to really be growing. So let's talk first about the PSA mistake. So can you kind of explain that to them, and then I'll have some questions to kind of guide us.
Okay, so PSA, a lot of controversy. I think most of the controversy revolves around is they are the top company, so every company wants to take you down. Now, it's bad enough you have people want to take you down. That makes sense. But the problem is when you do have mistakes and then you tell people, hey, well, it was our mistake, blah blah blah. We will pay you for your card, and they had sold the card on a platform for $40,000. We're like, but no, our actual value we have on this card is 20,000. You're like, wait a second, how did you assess that value? Like last week we talked about comps and stuff like that. So, I think that I wish PSA would get out of the business of buying your cards. Now, don't get me wrong, it makes sense. You send a card, you get a PSA 10. They say, hey, we'll give you this much money. And you don't have to worry about it. They just send you, they literally will Venmo you, whatever you do. You just send you money back. That's fine. And you sold it. And that's what you plan on doing in the first place. The problem is they shouldn't be in the marketing of it. I've always thought with Beckett through, they controlled they graded, they controlled the price guide and stuff like that. That's when actually people actually bought the Beckett and read the Beckett, or then people had Beckett subscriptions online to try to figure out what this is and that before you had Cart, before you had your market movers and Card Ladder and all these other places and stuff like that. So yeah, PSA, they're saying that they're swapping cards and all this, and it doesn't. You guys are making like $25. A minimum grade for a sports card now on bulk's $25. That's the cost. When Mike sends them away, he charges $30, but that's cleaning and getting it prepared and all that. But $25, and you're just having somebody look at it. You're putting a piece of plastic in it, putting a paper in, and sealing it. So you got a couple bucks in it. So there's no reason for you to have to be in all these other industries. You don't have to be in it. But hey, everybody else is in it. Why don't we get in it? So yeah, I mean, PSA will very unlikely they ever fall from being number one because none of your other companies will ever pick up enough momentum to pass them. But they definitely have a black eye, and it's or a a bruise to the eye, and it looks bad on the hobby.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah. So to kind of reiterate what we're saying here, PSA made a big mistake, damaged a guy's card.
Mm.
They actually had a sale on their own books for $45,000 for that own card, and for that exact same card, and then decided to offer the guy $20,000. So I'm going to ask Bill a couple questions and
Mm-hmm.
have my own opinion here.
Yep.
What would have been fair, you think, for them to offer the gentleman who they damaged their card?
Okay. So here's what I would say. I would say that you have to take in so if you take in consideration your numbers, and they're your own numbers, when you use your own numbers, you can't fudge your own numbers. That's what it is. So I could see them saying, hey, I tell you what, we will give you 80% of what the last one sold for, because that's what, if you sold on eBay, or you sold, you're going to pay fees. If you sold Whatnot, eBay, any platform, there's a fee that you're going to have to pay on, stuff like that. I think that they should have made an offer more in that general range.
Mhm.
But if they would have said, hey, I'll tell you what, we want to offer you 20, you think it's 40, hey, can we settle at 30?
Mhm.
Wait, can you help us out? Because they didn't purposely damage the card. We're not saying they sit there and, like the guy on Whatnot that was like literally like, I didn't get enough for my card and slammed it down or anything like that.
Mhm.
Things happen. When you're grading millions and millions and millions, when you're grading over a million cards a month, there are cards that, as you're turning around and next thing you know, it falls on the ground or it gets creased or something like that by accident. Literally, that it's not a purposeful thought. There's a difference between the person that drops a stack of dishes, like 10 dishes, or the person that literally smashes the one dish. There's a completely different, it's just like, it's, there's a parable to it in the Bible or whatever, but it's because that person literally, it was just an accident. But this one purposely did it. And it wasn't a purpose, it just happens. So to meet someone in the middle or something like that, that's more what I think they should have done.
Yeah. So I would agree with Bill. I definitely think PSA was out of line to only offer a guy
Mm-hmm.
$20,000 on something that was on their own books as a $45,000
Mm-hmm.
sale. I believe that, but I agree that maybe 30, 35 would have
Mm-hmm.
been fair. I mean, we all know PSA is making tons of money, and so
Yep.
they could have made a much more reasonable offer, and I'm not sure this would have got the negative publicity
Mm-hmm.
that it did. So we, a few weeks ago, probably a couple months ago, visited the idea of PSA had made a mistake before. It came out that there was some regrading that wasn't lining
Mm-hmm.
up. There was
Yep.
some mistakes like that, and I made a prediction, a very bold prediction, that PSA graded cards would probably take about a 30% hit. That you would see about a 30% hit in the value of PSA cards.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I was wrong, for sure, and that's fine for me to say that. But I got a question, and I'm asking Bill, when do you think enough's enough? Where we start to back away from PSA, or the significance of grading starts to take a hit?
Well, okay, so your problem's not really with grading.
Mhm.
It really isn't. The problem is with the hobby. It comes down to the buying the $500 box and you get $100 worth of cards. Now, the only way to turn those $100 worth of cards that are raw into anything more is to send it away and get it graded or get it authenticated and stuff like that. So that's the only way to do that, because you spent 500, now you have 100. The only way to fix that is to grade it, because you can't. There's another way too. You take the $100 in cards, you hold it for multiple years, and hope one of the rookies or something takes off.
Mhm.
That's what we call collecting. Now, a lot of you guys don't understand that, but that's what's called collecting. You hold it until it becomes worth something, not short sell it for nothing today, because you shouldn't have spent 500 in the first place. But grading will not change. I will say this though: it is at the price point.
Mhm.
It's I am hearing a lot of people going with other companies, like
Mhm.
they're going to JM or GMA. It's like less than $10 a card, like $10 a card.
Mhm.
If you bring me a card that's graded through them, it is a roll card to me. And if you talk to, I mean, one of the better aficionados in the business, which is Rob
Mhm.
Barris, Burbank Sports Cards.
Mhm.
He literally has monster boxes full of, like, it's over 600 different companies that have tried to grade cards.
Mhm.
So he does not buy anything other than PSA, Beckett, SGC, or CGC or
Mhm.
whatever. Other than that, everything else is raw.
Mhm.
Now, with the TCG market, which is a little different, I have noticed a lot of people moving to tag.
Mhm.
Now, I can't say that it won't. I can't say it won't progress,
Mhm.
but also, if you show me a PSA card and you want me to pay the same for a tag graded card, it's not going to happen. You have the gold standard, and then you have everything else. So
Mhm.
all those other companies will roll up into one,
Mhm.
and the other companies are going to have to come cheaper to try to steal PSA's money, or to get those people to. But if you're paying money, does it actually add value to your card, or
Mhm.
to who you're marketing it to?
Mhm.
So if you're marketing it to general public, you better grade it by somebody that you can resell it to,
Mhm.
not just, hey, I got it into a slab. Because there's a company just south of here in Chillicothe. It's called Underground Card Zone.
Mhm.
He does grade cards. He grades Pokemon. He grades TCG. He's graded sports cards.
Mhm.
There's people, they're floating all around Central Ohio, his
Mhm.
grades, and
Mhm.
that's fine. But I'm sorry, but there is not one sports card that someone showed me that has his grade that
Mhm.
I'm giving you a PSA value of a 10 if it's marked a 10.
Mhm.
You are out of your freaking mind if you think that you could get that. But people are setting up at shows with those and trying, like, oh well, the PSA 10's 200, but I'll tell you what, I'll do 180. No, you're way off.
Mhm.
That card's $100 card at best. So, anyways, it is
Mhm.
what it is. The little guys will never surpass the big guy. It's just like, but which guys will be left at the end? And PSA now owns Beckett. So,
Yeah. So, first of all, I would agree that I do think in the TCG world that tag is starting to gain momentum.
mm-hmm,
And I think that I saw somebody else talking about it, and the price differences between tag and PSA in the TCG world
mm-hmm,
specifically is not that drastic. And so I'm like, good for you. Let's start focusing on another company, and especially a company if we could
mm-hmm,
start talking about AI technology and stuff, then we're talking about room for growth and room for at least a competition to be
mm-hmm,
had. Now, I will say this. It's interesting you quoted Rob Burbank because, or you were talking about him, because 2 years ago, Rob Burbank said he hates the whole grading thing. He doesn't like anything where you have to take a card, do something else to it to increase the
mm-hmm.
value. And I'm going to echo that. And I'm going to say that I personally understand grading. And here's how I understand it. I understand it as a investment. Like, I'm going to buy a card. I want to ensure that it is encapsulated and there's an agreed upon definition of its grade, and I collect this guy. Totally get that. But as a business model, I think grading's dead. I do not think that you can any longer really grab a box of cards, hope that you hit a really sharp card and get it graded, and that be a business model for you to make money. Not only do I think that it's kind of falling apart, I think it's just kind of dumb. I just don't get it. Now that's easy for me to say because listen, I'm the exact opposite of Rob at Burbank Cards. One, he's a billionaire or millionaire or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not. And two, he is focused on single cards. But that means a lot that he is focused on single cards and doesn't like grading. Now, I'm more of a big wax
Mm-hmm.
guy, and that's my business model, but I don't really understand grading. And I think we're closer than everybody thinks to grading taking a third or fourth seat in the row of things that move this hobby. Because right now, if you had to guess, grading, how much is it holding up the card hobby market? Or how many cards, if you were going to put a percent on it, how many cards do you think that are over $200 that sell percent wise are graded versus not graded?
A lot. Well, that's a tough question because a lot of those cards that are being sold that aren't graded, people are buying them to grade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you're buying it if it's a $200 card, and it's like, okay, it's $200 card raw,
Mm-hmm.
but in a PSA 10 it's $500.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth it for me to go up and pay your full price on this, add $30 to it, the PSA, hoping I get a $500
Mm-hmm.
card. Now, if I don't, and it comes back a nine or whatever, and I have to sell it for $200, I'm out $30.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the same gamble, but it's actually, to be honest with you, it's less of a gamble than opening a $500 box and getting $100 worth of cards.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with Rob on that. I mean, I think that everybody wants to position themselves into graded cards because not with modern specifically, but with like vintage, because then there's no doubt what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, hey, a card comes up to me and I look and I'm like, dude, that's a 3 or 4 at best, and you're like, oh no, it's like a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a difference of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like me going to a show and looking at someone showcase, and the guy wanting like last week's, someone wants $450, and I don't. What's your comp at? Well, that's what I want for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're going to value that and tell me it's PSA 7, then you
Mm-hmm.
better show me it's PSA 7, not just tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, for vintage, for stuff that is not gem mint or like 8 or less,
Mm-hmm.
yes, or older, it is better to have it graded, so there's no dispute on that side of it. Now, for modern cards, modern cards should be in mint shape when they come out of the pack. Now, PSA, I watched Cuban clever Cuban cards or whatever the other day, and he literally sent in cards, and or got a card out of a box and the card was damaged, and PSA said, "Hey, if this card would grade less than an 8,
Mm-hmm.
we will replace it." You know what? He sent it away. It came back as 7. So they said, "Okay, we will replace it," and they sent him a replacement for it. I can't remember what he got or whatever. It was something
Mm-hmm.
comparable or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they're saying that if you get out of a pack, it should be at least an 8.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, an 8 doesn't really. That's not the top of the market.
Mm-hmm.
You're hoping for a PSA 10. So if you get the greatest card in the world, but it's off center, you're not getting a PSA 10. You get a card that in there and it's got a little scratch on it. You didn't do it. It was in the pack the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
That company has no reason to replace it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they're saying if it's got to be an 8 or better, now you have to send it to PSA and sit on it for 4 months waiting to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
And if it comes back an 8, that's your card.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and just to be clear, like I'm not disagreeing with
mm-hmm.
the desirability of graded cards. I
Mm-hmm.
totally understand if you're trying to put
Mm-hmm.
together a 1972
Yes.
top set and you want everything graded a 6 or better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's and then you try to go from a 6 to a
7,
7.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally
6,
get that.
7,
6, 7.
7.
Yeah. But
Nice gut.
I totally get that. But what I don't get and what I'm kind of putting down, I guess, is this idea now that everybody is grading that you're just going to make money. Your business model is to walk through a show and pick up cards you think will grade higher, and
Mm-hmm.
your business model for your business, side hustle, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is to send them off, pray for the best,
Mm-hmm.
and then hope that you made money.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer that can continue. And then
Yeah.
just one last question for Bill, and we'll move on to another topic quickly.
If the card would ever go from being a back to collecting
Yeah.
and not a business,
Yes.
you are right.
Yes, that's
You're correct.
yes.
But as long as people are using this money to make a living or to be able to afford that hobby box
Yeah.
or using that money that they need from that,
Yeah.
it won't go away.
Okay, so one last question and just I guess simple response here.
Yep.
Can
No.
PSA do enough wrong to dethrone themselves?
No.
They can.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
You're
not.
saying it'd have to be some crazy butt scandal or something, not just a bunch of little mistakes.
So for everything that's been discovered or
Mm-hmm.
everything that's been said, there's always been theories behind it,
Mm-hmm.
So before you didn't have people documenting everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the person that's sending in 5,000 cards, like let's say Burbank, just
Mm-hmm.
in particular, they have a PSA grading booth inside of their shop.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that they're going to stop sending in 5 to 10,000 cards a month
Mm-hmm.
because people are going to be like, "Oh no, I don't really like that." No, those
Mm-hmm.
people want their grades. They want
Mm-hmm.
their PSA 10 so they can make money. When it all revolves around money, people are still going to go and then pray that they don't have the horror story.
Mm-hmm.
Pray that there's not a mistake. I mean, if all the situations was like the situation where the cards were undergraded, they was a 9, they tried to buy them at 9s, but they came back 10s. If they would give them 10s in the first place, there's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these questions and stuff like that is from small errors, but there's never been a huge thing that PSA directly as a company has purposely pushed onto anybody
Mm-hmm.
other than what we've seen them offering 40,000 compared to 20,000 when
Mm-hmm.
it was on their books. So
Okay. All right, so let's move on to another
yep.
topic here, and I'm going to set it up by we're not really going to talk about this show, but I'm going to set it up by kind of talking about this show. So Shipshawana was just a couple well just last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
Shipshawana, and it was a madhouse. There were tons and tons of people there,
Mm-hmm.
and some people who went there reported people's glass cases looking like Swiss cheese.
Yes.
Now, I personally have experienced just being out at local shows
Mm-hmm.
recently that there is a major influx of new customers,
Mm-hmm.
but people's glass cases looking like Swiss cheese is honestly because of the need for people to restock for like their whatnot
Mm-hmm.
streams and things like that. So the question I have is, how long do we have this big push for whatnot, and how long and how impactful is this need for dealers to restock going to last?
Okay, so you don't have a problem restocking and buying off people if they're not becoming business people. Everybody that gets a card, like I've said this before, you open a box of cards, you get something good, but you don't collect that guy. Now you are in a situation to get rid of that card. Now you're in the business. You're a dealer. Oh, so how many times do you do that before you're like, hey, well, it's only what, $100 a table? I'll just get a table.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these people, that those dealers that were buying off of before, that was they would have restocked their showcase, like, hey, wait, I know John's coming through the show and he's always got good stuff, so I'll wait till he comes in and I'll just buy off it. I'll just buy his whole thing and blah blah blah, no problem. Well, unfortunately, John's now 3 rows over from you selling his stuff to those customers that you were selling to.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have Brent Shannon going through and be like, at 8 o'clock in the morning when the show don't open till 10. No offense, I like Brent, but if you're able to get into a show early, it helps. But when he's like, okay, well, I want this row of case hits, I want all these case hits, and then he says, okay, can you do 5% off your market? Absolutely. When the person comes in the show, they didn't get a chance to buy those,
Mm-hmm.
but that was guaranteed money. So, but then do they want to restock at 85%, even though they sold at 90 or 95%?
Mm-hmm.
No, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to. If there isn't 400 other tables trying to buy off those people the same way.
Yeah.
So, with so many people in the same thing, you are going to have to pay higher
Mm-hmm.
to reacquire that inventory, and that is a drawback to bigger shows.
Mm-hmm.
A 60 table show where somebody comes in and they like at Rob's the Circle show.
Mm-hmm.
There were several dealers I know that were buying,
Mm-hmm.
but the ball card show, Gary and Jason, they bought a lot of stuff. I sent people to them that I just didn't feel like buying. I
Mm-hmm.
literally just sent them over to them and say, hey, check out them, and they bought a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, but when Gary and them go to a Ship Shawana and do that, and they're 8 aisles back from behind Card Collector 2
Mm-hmm.
or behind Brad or behind Indie Card Exchange, they're not seeing much come to their table because it's being cleared out at
Mm-hmm.
a higher price than they want to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Because Gary's always told me a lot forever. He doesn't like to pay more than 70%. I get it. I don't want to pay more than 70% either, but I have to.
Mm-hmm.
So in those situations, yes, the
Mm-hmm.
supply doesn't equal the demand, and not all of those dealers are going to be able to restock. And
Mm-hmm.
do they want to, or do they need to
Mm-hmm.
at that price?
Yeah. So yeah, in general, I just have some thoughts, about whatnot, and it's I feel like it is a big part of this hobby, and I feel like as a dealer, whatever level you are of singles,
Mm-hmm.
you have to decide if you're going on whatnot or if you're going to supply somebody who's on whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's basically the choice that I feel that you have. I don't like it myself. I think, and I think it was Neo basically said whatnot's the wild wild west. I think he referred to dealers as slimy, as some of the slimiest guys on there. I do like the lack of barrier of entry into that market, that any Tom, Dick, and Harry can go live and go on
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But Fanatics Live actually does a better job of kind of I guess,
Controlling that.
controlling who's coming in and stuff like that. And maybe even eBay does, but Whatnot, it's just anybody out there doing whatever. And on Whatnot, it seems that the people who do the best, who make the most noise, are the most like used car salesmen.
Yes.
And that's just not for me. I happened to see the thing for it was actually Card Collector 2's Ryan's content thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was with Rob from
Mm-hmm.
Burbanks again.
Yep.
And he's like, we don't break. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a large part of our business. I feel weird encouraging people to gamble, and I feel weird taking a $400 box and making it 550 and then dividing it between 8 people,
Mm-hmm.
like in a football division. For him, that's his personal choice. For a lot of us, our personal choice isn't like Bill would always refer to it as dance like a monkey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to dance like a monkey to sell stuff on Whatnot or Fanatics Live or whatever. But I think we all have to deal with the fact there are people who are willing to.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to kind of realize that in the hobby. But when we're talking about shows and how crazy they've been, we have to realize that yes, Fanatics has done a great job of marketing, and there's new faces in the hobby, new collectors in the hobby, but also at least 50% of that growth is all the new people on Whatnot looking for inventory.
Mm-hmm. So I will make a comment on Rob's comment from Rob from Burbank. So he doesn't do breaking. His complaint was a couple years ago he couldn't even get enough wax to supply his shop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now he has a mega shop. He has a destination.
Mm-hmm.
When you go out to Burbank and you do cards, that's the first place you want to go. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know about any of those other card shops. That's the one place you're planning on going.
Yep.
He doesn't need to break.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely not. He doesn't need to give another platform a percentage of his price
Mm-hmm.
and to raise his price. But that box is $400. He still has no problem selling that to that customer and that guy getting $100 in cards.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the 8 people spending $550 and they still only get $100 in cards, but it's divided between 8 people?
Mm-hmm.
So
And I think there's a balance between, yeah, Rob at Burbanks does not need to break. We all understand
absolutely.
he doesn't need to. I have not found it a necessity to break, but also there's a customer service aspect of this
Mm-hmm.
that I don't want somebody to have to go somewhere else if it's
Mm-hmm.
a service that I can provide for them and they
Yes.
want to do business with me. So
Yes.
that's why we've been expanding our breaking. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we've invested in equipment to step up our game on other things.
We know there are people that their budgets for them are not. They would like to buy they'd like to buy an optic. What is optic hobby this year? Football.
7-ish.
7-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, the people that come in here that buy that box off of us is very few.
Mm-hmm.
And the boxes of that we get in is very few because of our allocation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would people buy into that to get, want to get the, I don't know, the Giants out of that? Well, yeah, they would like to, and they'd be more than glad to pay $30 or $25 or whatever to get the team.
Mm-hmm.
So breaking in that case, if you collect a certain team, or that's all you do, I think breaking's great. You got into a whole case of stuff for the less than the box price that you would have paid for one box.
Mm-hmm.
Now the problem is a lot of those people do randoms.
Mm-hmm.
That's gambling. That's gambling because you don't even know who you're going to end up with. Or you just pick it. You pick anybody. So and that's where when we eventually are on Fanatics Collect or Fanatics Live, we will be able to offer out it by the team.
Mm-hmm.
And someone can actually come in and buy a team because hopefully that platform has enough people that are buying those teams that don't sell locally for us that we can cover a big break. So it's not really a necessity, like you said, but it is a service.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So we appreciate you watching this video. You'll see it broken down into individual segments if you're bored with this whole thing. But please, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to YouTube, check us out on TikTok, Bill's OnlyFans. Yeah, you can check them out there. But yeah, we appreciate you watching, and we hope you have a great day.